right. Well, good evening and welcome to, I can't believe it, the 20th episode of True Crime with the bad girl, the Playa, and Dangerous Dave. And I am Benny Scala, a.k.a. the Playa. With me, as always, is my partner in True Crime. Now, this young lady sat under the learning tree, the great Killer Kowalski. She is a member of the New England Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. She is the one, the only, the Boston bad girl, Brittany Brown. Brittany, how are you, my dear?
Well, I've been better. How are you?
I'm great. Well, that doesn't sound good. Hopefully this show will make you feel a little bit better.
That's what I'm hoping. Thank you.
We'll work on it. And then our other esteemed panel member is also a Kowalski alum. And in case you didn't know it, Shawn Michaels actually asked him if he could borrow the nickname the Heartbreak Kid. So, ladies, if he hasn't responded to your cards and letters, please be patient. He will. And, of course, I can only be talking about New England indie wrestling legend, Dangerous Dave Starr. Dave, how are you, my friend?
I couldn't be any better for a Monday, and I'm doing great. And to all our podcast viewers out there, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me.
I love that movie. I got to watch it again. It's been a long time since I watched that. That's definitely worth a rewatch. Classic. So, well, guys, you know, at first glance, you might think to yourself when you see the thumbnail and who we're going to talk about tonight that these guys are beating a dead horse, much like a necrophiliac hooker. But to quote the great Quick Draw McGraw, remember that show, the cartoon? Hold on there, Baba Louie. So Scott Peterson was convicted in 2004 for the tragic murder of his wife Lacey and unborn son Connor. And he's once again back in the news. Somehow, and this dickhead got the Los Angeles Innocent Project to take his case. And in addition, he decided to break a 20-year silence. And he did a series of interviews, which Peacock picked up, and they're showing it as a docuseries entitled Face to Face with Scott Peterson. So let's take a quick trip in the true crime time machine and go back to early 2003 when we first heard about this heinous crime. And I'll go first here, and I'll say that, you know, besides being beyond sad at what a tragic loss of life, but the one thing that hit me more than anything, it was the image of Scott Peterson, and I just thought of him as a smug, arrogant prick and a piece of shit. So how about you guys?
I felt the same way. The thing that got me, I don't know what got me first. The fact that the woman was killed while she was 9 months pregnant and washed up on a beach somewhere separate from her baby, or his smug ass look. I don't know. I was so horrified with this whole case back then. Horrified. He's a dirtbag.
The thing that got me first was, other than what you just previously said, what got me the most is when I saw the press conference of his girlfriend coming. She didn't do anything wrong, but actually coming clean and, you know, giving what happened between her and Scott Peterson, giving the logistics to the media and stepping up and saying, you know, I had an affair with this guy. That just, right then and there, as far as I was concerned, he was DOA right there.
Are you talking
As
about
anybody that, you know, if you don't got nothing to hide, like if I was unfortunately cheating on my wife and something happened to her that had nothing to do with me, I would immediately tell the police, well, listen, we weren't getting along. I have a girlfriend. If I knew I didn't do anything wrong, just come out and just tell the truth. But he didn't tell the truth.
No. When you have nothing to hide, I mean, yeah, people don't get along, but, you know, normally that doesn't equate you into being a murderer. However, in this case, it did. But yeah, I mean, Amber Fry, and we'll talk about her later. She was a rock star, I thought, and I think without her, maybe he skates, but she definitely cooked his goose. So now this is normally the time that Brittany does an extensive rundown of the case, but I really don't think that's necessary. I mean, unless anybody out there has been living under a rock or in a coma, I'm sure you're quite familiar with all the details of this case. So we're going to just bounce stuff off each other for the rest of the show. And any of you I know we always have a very active chat room, which is greatly appreciated. Please feel free to comment, and we'll definitely take that into account. But before we get into the chat, or into the nitty gritty rather, we're going to do like Scott Hall. Hey yo, we're going to have a little survey, and hopefully this works. This is my first time doing anything like this, but hang on one second. Hang on. So here we have the hottest selling breakfast cereal in the nation. Pieces of shit. Now you can see that the current poster boy for pieces of shit is the legendary golfer Shooter McGavin. I think there he is. All right, but tonight, right now, you guys in the chat room, you guys out there, you're going to help us select a possible replacement, and I'm going to show you several pictures. And what I'd like you all to do, if you could be so kind, please type in your vote in the chat box. Just write it, type a name in. Yeah, if you have any write-ins, please that as well. So, please type that in as well. So here we go. So choice number 1 is Shooter McGavin. The other ones, no names are required. And this guy is, with his new man bun, is still looks like a jackass. Is this week's subject. I mean, I have to give him credit. He has aged very well for a 51-year-old guy. That's true. That's the next choice. The choir boy from last week. And here is our last choice. All right. So, like I said, what you need to do, if you'd be so kind, just type in the name of your choice, and we'll tally it up at the end of this show. I did that. Wow. I'm proud of myself.
Excellent.
Very good. Very good. What a leader.
You can't teach an old dog new tricks. I learned how to do something new. So, I'm incredulous that this case is actually back in the news. How do you guys feel? I mean, when I heard that the Los Angeles Innocent Project was taking this guy's case, how? Why? Aren't they supposed to try to get innocent people out of jail?
I mean, I thought they had to have really good evidence in order to take this. So I guess I'm a little stumped as to what has been uncovered, because I still don't know.
Well, I think.
Do any of you guys know?
I don't know what was uncovered, but I know this much. Anybody that's married and your wife gets killed, the first person the police look at is either going to be the husband or the wife, whoever gets killed.
Always the spouse is the first person of interest.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And if it wasn't, I don't know if he would have got caught if it wasn't for this Amber Fry and the bodies washing up on shore. Because, they used to, I followed this case when it came out, and I could, he'd come out of his house and with that smug look on his face. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't even think he participated in any searches for her. If my information is right, if I can recall back then, he did not even participate in any searches, and he's just a piece of shit. From what I heard from my sources, and back then, the police think he actually got her in the pool. They had a pool in the backyard and actually drowned her in the pool.
Interesting.
That was what I heard. And one of the theories back then was he somehow lured her into the pool, and that's where he drowned her to kill her.
Okay. God. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. One of the things that really struck me when I heard, as I was following the case at that time, was that even when she was first reported missing, I think within a matter of a couple of weeks, he sold her car. So, I mean, what's up with that? If somebody's missing, aren't you hoping they come back? Why would you do that?
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, If they weren't already looking seriously at him, hello, put the spotlight on you.
Right.
And, another thing is what's very important is when something like this happens, and in this case, Scott Peterson, and if you listen to Lacey Peterson's parents, when you start to drift away and totally shut those people out like Scott Peterson did, there's a problem there. So what I'm trying to say is if my wife is missing, you don't know what happened to her, the first people I would go to is my in-laws for help. That's what I'm trying to say. Why wouldn't you go to your in-laws for help and work closely with your in-laws and go out searching, putting a game plan together, go out searching. But that was the opposite. He distanced himself from her. And I don't know if he bought a new boat or a new car and he was trying to sell the house. And but when you distance yourself from your in-laws, there's something there,
I could be wrong, but wasn't the boat a fairly recent purchase?
I thought so.
I don't think he bought the boat that far from when he went fishing on whatever he did on Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve he killed him.
Yeah, I heard he bought it that summer.
But Dave, you have 2 daughters, right?
I do.
How old are your daughters?
35 and 33.
All right, so they were born, one was born in 89, right? Or 88, 89?
89, yep, and the other was born 92. Yep.
My first son was born 1983, and back then no cell phones, right? No internet. I was so nervous, and I worked about 25 miles from my house, and I was so worried that something might happen that I actually, remember such a thing as a pager, long lost technology. I brought a pager just because I was so afraid of missing something. Yet this guy, with a wife who is very pregnant, I think she was confined to bed rest at that point, or she wasn't supposed to do a whole lot, but you got an 8.5 month pregnant wife, and how do you use that? Why would any normal guy go fishing 90 miles away, which, and you can't always get phone service, in the water. I went fishing a couple of weeks ago. Once we were an hour at sea, I was done for. I had no service whatsoever. So why would you risk something like that if you're a normal guy?
Right. I like to make a retraction. My daughter's 32, my youngest one, because I'll hear it when the show is over.
You don't want
to. When you take your boat out to a marina and you're out fishing out in the sea, and you come back to that marina, and then you go home, and then your bodies wash up near that marina, whatever it was, 4 months later or however it was. Like my mother used to say growing up, and I've told the people out there in podcast land this before, my mother used to always say, you can have all the education that money can buy, but if you don't got no common sense to go with it, then you don't have anything. And common sense tells me that if you went out fishing at that marina and then your wife and your kid washes up shore, not too far from there, the dinghy button goes off. I think you're guilty.
Yeah, it's they say it's circumstantial, but most murders are when they go to court, it is circumstantial because very few people actually witness a murder. What happens? A dead body is discovered, and then they do forensics, and a lot of times there's more evidence than not. But to me, if anybody thinks that this guy didn't do it, I'll buy some swampland in Florida here, and I'll resell it to him. And because you got to be really, really naive to think that this guy didn't do it. What could you possibly say in his defense? Yeah, there was that burglary across the street, and this is one of the things they keep bringing up now, the LA Innocence Project. But those guys,
I'm sorry, Betty. Go ahead.
No, I mean those guys were, they were interviewed and they were cleared.
Right. Wow. And this theory of, well, the neighbors saw her walking the dog when he was gone. That came up too. Now, I don't, maybe that police department is inept like the Canton police are. I don't know, but all these things that are being brought up right now by this the agency that wants to get him out of jail, they were all brought up back then, and they were all checked out and came back. And came back. As far as the burglary goes, I don't know, but as far as the neighbors seeing her, I don't recall any neighbors coming forward saying they saw her walking the dog while he was gone.
Well, I mean, I look at it this way. I mean, what was his name? Garagos, Mark Garagos, I think, was a very high-powered attorney for Peterson. Yep. If there was one person who could verify that Lacey was out walking her dog at whatever time, after whatever time Scott left, do you not think that they would have been on called as a defense witness? I mean,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, so
right.
The fact that none of them were called, I mean, that tells me everything I need to know.
Listen, there's three guys, right? Oh, go ahead, Brittany. Sorry.
No, I just said exactly. I'm just agreeing.
Listen, there's three guys, right? Put them all together. Okay, so you got Scott Peterson. His wife was pregnant. He didn't want the wife, didn't want the kid. He wanted to go bang chicks. He wanted the single life. And then you got Chris Watts, who did the same thing to his wife and his kids. Why? Because he had a girlfriend on the side, didn't want the kids no more. She was pregnant with another kid coming. He didn't want that. Killed them all, dumped them in the oil well, and dumped the mother and the baby in the ground. And then you have a little bit different. You have the Stewart case in Boston. Charles Stewart many years ago, who shot and killed his wife, shot her in the head, killed her and the baby, and then stupidly shot himself. But what I'm trying to say is all three of these parallel together. Like if you're trying to say, like people are trying to say he's innocent. These three cases I just mentioned all parallel together. They all got one thing in common, and that is the husband didn't want the baby, the kids, because they were banging chicks on the side. They wanted the single life, and in their heads, the only way they could do it was to kill the family.
Yep.
Yeah. No,
I'm just throwing that out there to podcast land.
That's a great point. And Dave, that works on both sides because, how about there's a lady named Diane Downs. I don't know if you remember her from the 80s. Crazy woman. And she got mixed up with a guy that had no interest whatsoever in her kids. And she took her kids for a ride one night, shot all three of them. One died. One, I think, was paralyzed, but one survived and, was the one that testified against her and cooked her goose, and she's still in jail. There was another woman named Suzanne Smith. I guess just let her car just roll into the lake. Yeah. And it was, again, related to a boyfriend that had no interest in kids.
Absolutely.
And last but not least, even though she somehow managed to skate, Casey Anthony. Did not want to be burdened with a child. I mean, that beautiful put the child up for adoption. What's wrong with these people?
I mean, and that one really pisses me off because A, because she did skate, but B, her parents was so very involved with that child, they would never have let anyone else adopt that baby. Those parents would have taken that little girl. That did not need to be done. And how she was never convicted is beyond me.
That, to me, that and OJ are the two biggest miscarriages of justice in the United States.
Totally agree.
Which will actually be rivaled with if somehow Peterson gets a new trial and gets off, then I'm gonna put him with the two of them.
Well, to go to what Brittany said, the parents of her too, Casey Anthony, just as bad because didn't they wait 30 days before they even reported the girl missing?
Yeah,
nobody reported her missing to the police, not even the grandparents. If I was living and I didn't see I didn't see my granddaughter, but I see her all the time, but I haven't seen her, and I'm asking my daughter where she is, and then a week goes by, I'm going to start saying, well, something's up here, you know.
And let's face it. I mean, the parents weren't dumb people. The father was an ex-cop, right? Retired cop.
Right.
And the mother was no dummy. And you have a daughter who, I mean, I gotta think this wasn't her first rodeo when it came to lying. I mean, I as you know, as a parent, you know when your kid's lying. Come on, like you ask, where's my grandchild? Oh, she's with Zanny the nanny. Oh, she's here. Okay, like 2 days go by. You know what? I want to see my granddaughter. And then, like, you know, another day goes by. All right, Casey, you know, calling the cops. I'm going to turn you in. Where is she? You know, 30 days. That's incomprehensible that they waited out.
Yep.
That's pretty crazy because they were supposedly very involved with that child. So it kind of makes you wonder, you know. And it kind of also pissed me off that she all of a sudden out of nowhere decides that her father raped her. And that her father probably did this to the little baby as well. What was that all about?
That was never brought up ever. You know, I mean, you know, and I listened to a lot of their, you know, their jailhouse conversations. That was never brought up. That was something that, what's his name, probably concocted, Jose Baez.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, yeah, I mean, whatever he did, I mean, the guy's a Houdini, because to have gotten her off with that amount of evidence, I mean, either that jury was on hallucinogens, or I mean, they were under some kind of spell, because I remember when I heard that, it's like, no, come on, I didn't hear that right. There's no way.
Yep. I think the parents were kind of I think the parents of her were kind of in a no-win situation, to be honest. I think they knew something happened, but didn't want to go against their daughter or put their daughter. You know, it's kind of a gray area. You know, I don't think they knew what to do. The grandparents.
I agree that, and then that's got to be so sticky for anybody, but especially a retired cop. You know, and then to have his, you know, his whole reputation be smeared like that from his own daughter, and then to be accused of killing and raping his grandbaby. I mean, what kind of a monster is that girl?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, to his credit, that had to destroy him, though.
Oh, yeah. I saw an interview with him, and the man was in tears, shaking and in tears, did not know what to do, did not know how to go on.
Yeah.
But I mean, we just, I mean, so many cases of, you know, somebody like in Peterson's case, and the child wasn't even born yet, but the idea of being a faithful husband, you know, with a child and being anchored at home all the time was too much, you know, more than he could bear. And I do believe, even though it hasn't been brought up a whole lot, that Amber Fry was not his first affair.
I agree.
Right.
I agree. I think they just never came forward because they didn't want to get involved, and it was before all of this happened. So they figured, oh, I'm not going to have my name in the news. I'm not, you know, I wasn't with him when this happened. You know, she was. So like you guys said, that girl was a rock star for coming forward, because forever, for the rest of her life, her name is associated with this case.
Right. And I think that other bitch, Casey Anthony, should be brought to Bangkok.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that other bitch, Casey Anthony, should be brought over to Bangkok and
shot.
Well, you know the rest. Well, not shot, but
yep.
I will stand on my faith as a God-fearing man and say there is a higher judge. He may not be on this earth, but someday she's going to face him. And, you know, same with OJ, when, you know, I would not want to be them. That's all I can say.
And I don't think that Scott Peterson's looking too good these days in prison. You look at his face. You look at his face and his eyes. You can you can tell the 20 years is worn on him, which is
Oh
good.
yeah, I think it would anyone, but I mean, he still seems like a smug jackass, and he's still, just I would think that he'd be a little bit more humbled, being 20 years in prison, but it's the same, same act 20 years later.
Right.
Yeah, but when you
Nothing's
got your sister-in-law lobbying and getting the LA Innocence Project to take your case, what's he going to be but smug? He has completely brainwashed that woman to believing that he had absolutely nothing to do with this.
Yeah, speaking of her, there's Janie Cakes
Oh
there.
boy.
Yeah, and we actually invited her to the show tonight, but she couldn't make it because she had to go to the blacksmith to get fitted for a new pair of shoes. So maybe yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I despise that woman because
Yeah.
what she should be doing, in my opinion, is every day calling up the Rocha family. I think that's that Lacey's last name was Rocha or
Yep.
Roca, and saying, "What can I do to help you?" Instead of like her. I've seen a number of her interviews, and she just, she's relying on a couple of things. One is, the walking the dog, and the burglary, and I guess they found a van down the road with a burnt mattress that had a blood stain on it. But my understanding is the only thing that the judge is going to allow to be tested for DNA was it's like a 15-inch piece of duct tape that was found on Lacey's pants, and they're gonna test that for DNA.
I mean, who has a pregnant wife that's 9 months or 9 months pregnant, goes fishing on Christmas?
That's what I said. I mean, yeah, and I guess that was my point earlier, Dave. Like when your wife was in her last, last month, didn't you want to be around? I mean, at least like fairly close to home. I understand you might have had to go to work, but didn't you want to always make sure you were close by? Like, why? I mean, God forbid this woman's water broke. You're in the middle of it. You're out at in the bay. Probably without cell phone service, and I'm sure because that would track his movements. The cell phone. Why would you want to be without a way of communicating with a very pregnant wife?
Right, exactly. I mean, when my wife was pregnant, I told her, "Hey, I'm going down to the Charlie Horse to have a few beers and watch the Bruins." I was right down the street. Call me if something happens.
But you were easily within reach. She knew exactly where you are, exactly how to get you, and you could have probably been home in 5 minutes.
Well, she called me a few names, but I still went and watched the Bruins.
Well, I mean, shit, we're talking the Bruins, right? I heard a story that when they won that cup, that Wayne Cashman went out and got drunk, and then he went out. He went out and directed traffic, and then he got arrested. And with his one phone call, he ordered Chinese takeout. If that is all true, that guy's now my idol.
I think it is true.
Is it?
And I'll have you know, I was at that game.
Really?
Yes, I was 9 years old, and I got grounded for falling asleep.
But at the game?
At the Stanley Cup.
Wow.
Wow, we fell asleep.
We were forced to go. We had season tickets every year, every game. We were forced to go. All I wanted to do was sleep. But because it was Stanley Cup, and because they won, and because Johnny Busick went flying right by my seat, holding up the cup, and the champagne was going everywhere, I got grounded for not paying attention.
Wow.
Yeah, but I heard that story, but it was just recently. I think I read it online that Cashman went out.
I heard it was true.
Yeah, that is a great story. I mean, they don't make characters like that anymore.
No, well, they would have. I think they would have won more cups. I've heard stories, but I think they would have won a couple more cups. But those teams back then, all they did was drink and party. All those Derek Sanderson and Ty McKenzie and Bobby, all they did was go out and drink and party. round the clock, round every year. I think they caught up to them. That's why they didn't win a few more cups.
What a team that was. And growing up, so I'm growing up on Long Island, New York. Before the Islanders, all I had was the Rangers. And I tell you what, for years and years and years, I mean, the Rangers always had a very good team, but they could never, ever beat Boston in the playoffs. Never happened.
I loved it when they went up into the stands at Madison Square Garden. Mike Milbury started beating the fan with his shoe. Remember that?
That was a bit later, but I do remember. I definitely remember that. But I'm talking about like when you said Busick, Esposito.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Bobby
Orr.
By
McKenzie, my mother's favorite.
Yeah, Terry O'Reilly. Well, I think he was a little bit later too, but they had and then Cheevers in the goal. Remember him? Jerry Cheevers?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, the Rangers had Ed Jockman. He was pretty good.
The Rangers had a phenomenal team. They, the Rod Gilbert, Jean Rattel, Brad Park. I mean, you name it, Jockman. But the Bruins just had their number. And I remember when the Espo got traded to the Rangers. I think it was for
absolutely.
For Brad Park.
Yeah, Brad Park and Jean Rattel.
Jean Rattel, yeah. And I was shocked, but I was glad. It's okay. Now we got Esposito, and we still couldn't win.
Right.
Team effort.
I lived and breathed hockey back then. It was such a cool sport. I rarely even watch it now, but I mean, it was intense when the Rangers and the Bruins played in the playoffs, or the Rangers and the Flyers. I mean, it was a jihad.
Do you know who was in that trade for John Rattel and the Brad Park, who the Bruins sent to the Rangers? They sent 3 guys. Do you know who those 3 guys are, Benny?
No.
They sent Phil Esposito, Carol Vatney, and a journeyman called Joe Zanussi. Those are the 3 guys the Bruins sent to the Rangers.
I remember Carol Vatney because our announcer, Bill Chadwick, always called him Vadnoy. Yeah, very good defenseman, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep, good defenseman.
Very good defenseman. But, yeah, well, getting back to Scott, though, I mean, there's a track record. We listed a number of cases now where, somebody just did not want to be burdened with a child or children. And what really killed me, though, was the one phone call when he told Amber that he lost his wife. And then, the one that got me the most, though, was when he was at Lacey's vigil. I guess it was on New Year's Eve. And he called Amber Fry saying he was in Paris.
Yes.
Oh,
I remember that.
And he made believe like he couldn't hear her.
Yes.
Yeah. He was at the
What
Eiffel
a
Tower.
dog.
I mean, come on, you're vile. Like, there's no... And it's funny, like, Janie Cakes, she never brings that stuff up,
No,
or the fact that, when the police finally tracked him down, he had dyed his hair, grew a goatee. I think in his car, he had over $10,000 in cash. He had like a whole bunch of survival things. I think like camping equipment, fake driver's licenses. And I mean, everybody believed that he might have been headed to Mexico.
And I do believe did he dye his hair? Didn't he grow a goatee and dye his hair blonde or something too?
It was actually, I think it was red.
I know he dyed his hair and grew a beard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's like the old saying, if 2 + 2 = 4, but it ain't adding up, then something's wrong. And everything he did was a lie. He lied about his girlfriend. He lied to the police about his girlfriend. He lied to his girlfriend about where he was. I mean, everything he did was a lie. So, I mean,
lied to his wife over and over again, lied to his family, her family. Why do you think he couldn't look them in the eye ever again?
And initially, they supported him. I remember that. They were on his side at the beginning.
They were.
I think when the worm turned was when Amber surfaced and she started talking. And I mean, that was, it was instant. They flipped the switch. And I think that's when they knew.
Right.
But I don't know who is still alive. I know the brother and the sister, I believe, are her parents? I think it was a stepdad and her mom. I think they're both still alive.
I think so too.
I mean,
So who's the girl? Who's the douchebag that started all this? She's married to Scott Peterson's wife, brother.
the one who, yes, the one who got this, like, I believe, picked up by the LA Innocence Project. Janie Peterson is married to Scott's brother.
Okay.
Brittany had a very interesting theory, and I'm inclined to believe her.
Yep.
You know, I think Scott had a little side action with Janie Cakes.
I agree.
Right.
Because it doesn't make. She's more outspoken about him, his innocence, than anyone in his own family.
Absolutely.
I don't hear anybody else coming to his defense in his family except for her. So why just her?
Yeah,
Right.
very strange. And then, like you said earlier, Benny became a lawyer.
Right. Go to law school just to help. I mean, geez, come on.
The douchebag's a lawyer now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Never was before though, but is now.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of like those prison wives do. They start studying law because they married someone that they met in prison, and they're going to get them off because they believe all the bullshit lies that they're innocent.
Right. That's what I need. I need a prison wife. Conjugal visits. That's what I need. Like George Costanza.
Well, I tell you what, our subject from last week, Wade Wilson, geez. I mean, that guy has no shortage of women. And I think, I bet he's not no shortage of money either. I don't know how much money they let them put on his books in prison, but I don't think he's wanting for anything in there.
Yeah,
Right.
I heard another call last week with his girlfriend that he told that ever since July, I don't have any other girlfriends. There's nobody else that I'm talking to, just you. You can look at my account yourself. I'll give you my sign-ons. But there is this woman writing to me, but she's an older woman, and she's going to be putting $100 a month on my books. And she also wants to do merchandise. And she can put the money in her name. And the girlfriend was all for it.
Wow.
All for it. And she believes every word he's saying. And they're going to use this older woman who has 4 older children and is not married, and is going to send him $100 a month, and is going to start a merchandise site for them with his likeness on the shirt, the hat, the cup, etc.
People are crazy.
Yep.
Hey,
Absolutely nuts.
That's really not a. I mean, now look at the other side, though. That's really not a bad idea, because this girl who's on the outside is going to end up taking all the money.
Exactly.
Right? She's going to start the merchandising business, right? The girl on the outside.
Right.
Yep.
So-
but this is a lady that doesn't even know him. She's just writing
Right.
to him.
It's business. It's
But-
not
but
personal. It's
how
not
do these
personal.
women-
It's business.
How do these women
Yeah.
forget that this man, literally choked the life out of 2 women in a span of a few hours, and came very close to doing the hat trick? We're talking about hockey before, and I mean, like we said last week, if this guy got out of town, we'd be talking about this in a whole different light. I mean,
Oh yeah.
we wouldn't be talking about just 2 murders. I mean, I think he would have hit double digits, and very quickly, because I think once he broke the ice and he saw how easy it was, I don't think there was any stopping this guy. And this is a big, strong guy.
I agree.
I think-
And again, another rock star, his biological dad.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Stand-up guy. Thank God.
Yep.
For people
Yeah, no
like
kidding.
that.
Yeah, I think I'm doing something wrong. I think going to work ain't cutting the mustard. I got to get a merchandising business going.
Well, we can
There
start
you go.
that. Yeah, maybe we'll start a true crime merch line.
I got to get a
There
hold
we
of Pam
go.
Smart. I got to get a hold of Pamela Smart in New Hampshire.
Man, that would be a great case.
Yes, it would.
Is she still in jail?
Oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah. She's been up for parole about, I don't know how many times. She's gone to the Supreme Court, I don't know how many times, and they won't let her out. Everybody else is out. Even the guy that shot him is out. They're all out. They won't let her out. They won't let her out for some reason.
She was the mastermind.
Well, she was the mastermind. She put these young underage kids up to this, and she manipulated every single one of them.
Right.
And she set the whole scene in motion. So,
But
you know,
she didn't.
and her family's on Facebook. They have a Facebook group, Free Pam Smart. And I guess her mother's behind it. And they totally believe that she had nothing to do with it. Hello?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, she didn't pull the trigger. So if the trigger man's out, shouldn't she be out?
Well, the trigger man was underage.
Yeah.
And manipulated by an older woman, an overage woman that totally manipulated him.
Yeah, I think that's the theory behind it. Is these were still kids. They really weren't capable of thinking the whole thing through. But her and she wasn't much older than them, though, right?
She was like 25, I think.
Right.
She was their teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
But at least she was.
I'm hot the teacher.
Right. She definitely influenced those kids to do something like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think. I mean, maybe she'll get out eventually. What I don't get is like these people who campaign for like her or for Wade Wilson, or even for Scott Peterson. What they forget is that there's victims here, true victims. Not, and I don't mean Scott Peterson or Wade Wilson or Pam Smart. There are like families that are doing without loved ones. I mean, Lacey's mother. I'm sure it's been 22 years. I'm thinking like by now that kid would have maybe become Connor, the unborn son, would have been a senior in college. And you don't think that lady thinks about that every day?
Every day.
Yeah.
And her daughter every day.
We focus on the wrong stuff. I think people need to have those kind of thoughts in mind. This poor woman is heartbroken, and thinking about all the other grandkids she would have had, and how it would have been great, and having a Christmas and Thanksgiving with the family, and now there's a big hole in the family because of this jackass.
Yeah. It's a shame.
The Innocence Project took him on. I don't get it. I'm stumped. I have to say, I am stumped.
Because today, Brittany, because today everybody that does wrong is right. Everybody that tries to do right is wrong in our society today. It's backwards. So they figure, these liberal judges, all these judges are liberal now, and they're letting all these killers out, going because you can't be, you can't have they passed the law where, you can go up for parole after so many years. What's that law they passed? No life without parole. They did away. I thought they did away with that in Massachusetts and some states where now, for murder. And now you can go up for parole. Like, I don't want to mention two players from the New England Patriots who are retired in their twins actually go around advocating to let murderers out too, as they were in Brockton, advocating to let murderers out of jail.
Ooh.
I don't want to mention any names.
That.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Twin brothers. They play for the Patriots. They're retired now, won some Super Bowls. They go around. They have a foundation. They go around trying to help minorities who are in jail for murder, and advocating, trying to use their influence to get them out. Their foundation.
I wonder if they would have helped their former teammate, Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah. Well, we'll never know because he did the right thing. At least he knew what the right thing was to do.
But I got to ask you guys a question because, like this one, and I know everybody's different, but like Dave, say it was your wife, and but you didn't do it, like Scott alleges. You go through this trial, you get found guilty. You're not screaming at the top of your lungs, "I effing didn't do this." I mean, that's what I'd be doing.
Well, the thing is. How about, and this goes back to the Karen Reed story too. Why doesn't everybody just take a lie detector test? Take a lie detector test.
Right.
Not if you're in court.
Right, if you're innocent and Scott Peterson's innocent, and everybody in the Karen Reed case is innocent, why not just take a lie detector test?
And
They're all
I thought he
afraid.
initially agreed to take one, but then he backed off.
Then he backed out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, at least he was smart enough to back out because he knew he was guilty. But if I was innocent, I'd take a lie detector test in the first hour the cops had me into the station.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
my thing would, please let me know what I have to do to help you, and
Yep.
and clear my name. That would be like my, what do I have to do to help you guys so that you can clear me, and then we can go find who actually did this.
Like the Karen Reed case, have Karen Reed take a lie detector test. Have the Alberts take a lie detector test. No one took a lie detector test.
I mean, it's not admissible, but it's a hell of an indicator, though.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And that's why they won't do it.
If I'm Scott Peterson, that would have been like, I'm truly innocent. All right, let's, right now on national TV, on Dateline or whatever, 2020, I am going to sit down and take a polygraph test just to show all you bozos that I didn't do it. But you'll never see that happen.
Right. But the thing is, like George Costanza said on Seinfeld when he's going to go take a lie detector test, if you believe it, it's not a lie, Jerry.
I would actually think that Scott Peterson, because I've heard that some people are so good that they can convince themselves that they are telling the truth. I almost think that he could probably beat the test. He's a smart guy.
I would not be surprised.
And he's so cold. I mean, he's not Charles Manson evil, but I think he's pretty damn close in his own way.
Well, I mean, Charles Manson murdered, what's her name, Sharon Tate, and she was pregnant, so it's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Except he didn't stab her.
Yeah, he wasn't even there.
Yeah, Peterson's worse because, number one, he did it directly.
Right.
And number two, it was his own child.
I know.
It wasn't impersonal. It was his own unborn son.
His wife, the woman he married, the woman he asked to marry and went through with and planned a child with, and then you just take off and decide you want to, be hoeing around all over the place with all different women and lie to all of them too. Ugh, what a disgrace!
I like that saying.
Disgusting.
She was, by all accounts, she was a great wife too. I mean, she was very beautiful. I thought very attractive, very intelligent. So too. And just really, her whole life was centered around, providing a nice life for her husband and an unborn child, and that this is a reward she gets.
Yeah,
nice, just sad.
I like that saying that Brittany just said, hoeing around. I want to start hoeing around. I haven't been hoeing around for a long time.
Maybe we can get like a whole series of true crime T-shirts, and that'll be one of them.
Hoeing around.
Hoeing around.
Hoeing around.
Hoeing around town.
Yeah. Yep.
But I don't think that piece of duct tape is going to yield anything. I'm hoping to God that this just dies.
The only thing that could save him, the only thing that would even put a shred of doubt that would give him a 1% chance of doing anything, is if some neighbor or neighbors came forward and said, "Oh yeah, we saw her walking the dog while he was gone." I mean, they didn't come forward before, so.
My first question.
22 years later, how's your memory?
Right. Yeah. How can you remember it was at 9:37?
Right.
I have a hard time remembering what I had for breakfast this morning.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's a long time to be that damn precise, because you wouldn't have been at that. You would not have been focused. It's one thing if you heard like a giant bang and you looked at the clock and you saw, wow, and you took note of the time. But you're not gonna. I mean, you might notice a pregnant woman walking her dog. It's not going to be anything spectacular or significant to where you're going to say, "Oh yeah, I remember that happened at 9:30." You're not going to think in those terms. Nobody does.
Right. And what about the fact that she was supposedly bedridden too? How's she out walking the dog?
Well, I was just getting ready to say that. What kind of dog do they have? She's 9 months pregnant, 8 months pregnant. How are you walking a dog eight,
pretty
9 months
large.
pregnant?
It was not a small dog. It wasn't a,
Yeah,
you
I
know, it
think it
wasn't
was
a
a
little breed
golden.
pup.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure it was a golden retriever. So
Yeah,
here's this little tiny woman, almost 9 months pregnant, supposedly on bed rest on Christmas Eve. She's out walking the dog at 9:30 at
right.
night. Okay.
My opinion is this guy, from the time that he met Amber Fry, and I wonder if that was like maybe the turning point. I'm trying to think in my own mind, at what point did he decide to do this? And maybe meeting her, you know, was the turning point. And although she had a small child too, though, she was a single mom.
right,
Yeah.
right.
You know what?
Think about the cops too. Like, just think about the cops who actually had to, go look at the little baby and the mother
Oh,
Oh my
washing
God,
the shore,
you
and they
cannot
gotta,
pay those people enough money that have to
no,
deal
I
you
with
know.
something
agree.
like that. In my opinion,
I mean, the
I
cops
agree.
get, these cops today get, so much grief and aggravation. How about having to go through stuff like that, looking at a baby that washes ashore and
I'll
and the
use the
mother.
same mantra I've been saying for years. Are there bad cops? Absolutely, but you know what? There's bad doctors, there's bad lawyers, there's bad teachers, there's bad everything. So
Bad
yes,
wrestlers.
Absolutely.
but by and large, I think the majority of police are dedicated to doing their jobs, and like something like that, finding an 8.5-month-old fetus washed on shore. I mean, how do you even deal with something like that? And then to have to tell the family,
I know.
to me that's just unbearable.
Awful.
Right. And one thing
And I
Scott
agree.
Pe-
You couldn't pay me enough to do that job.
one thing Scott Peterson didn't figure on was the corpses down in the water, held down by all the cement weight he put on them, rotting to
Yep.
the point where they just broke off from the cement, from the ties in the cement to wash ashore. That's why
Yeah,
they washed ashore.
and he made those
Yep.
cement anchors, um, right? I mean that was pretty much proven that he actually made those anchors for the boat.
Yeah, didn't they
Right.
find cement particles in his boat, or he had
Yep.
the same
Oh
cement
yeah,
particles, and he had the
they
same.
found her hair and a pair of pliers on the boat. I mean,
Yep.
there's just so much circumstantial evidence
I
that
know.
maybe one particular thing doesn't say well he did it, but when you take the 87 things and put them
Right.
together, it's like, of course this guy did it.
I
How could he?
know. And that's why it stumps me so much that they are taking this because most of these people, I mean, I don't know what the ratio is of the cases that they take that they actually get the people off. I don't know, but I know it is pretty good. So they
Yeah,
have to have some pretty
well,
good stuff to
but
be
this is
able to
I
want to
guess
do this.
supposedly, and maybe somebody out in the chat room might be able to clarify. Supposedly, this is not the original Innocence Project. This is
Correct.
a relatively new organization. So I think, my opinion, this particular organization is taking this case just to bring some publicity to their name.
Could
But I
be.
think it's going to
That could be.
backfire because when they fail, it's going to be a huge fail. It's going to be a huge blot on their record. Number one, because they took a loss, but number two, I think a lot of people are going to be very critical. Like, why are you taking this case when I'm sure there's like 27 other examples of legit cases
Right.
of people that are in jail and have been in jail for years that have
Hmm.
been wrongly accused. It happens. I mean, the judicial system is not perfect. It's good, it's great, but it's not foolproof. And like, why
Right.
did you take
Absolutely.
Scott Peterson over, I don't know, Joe McGillicuddy, who's been in San Quentin for 31 years and who obviously did not do the crime? Like, why did you take? It's because it's sensational. They knew it would attract attention. I'm sure it's going to attract a little bit of money, or a lot of money, and it establishes their name. But I, I can't imagine in 22 years, not one single witness that would suggest anybody other than Scott Peterson did this. Where have
Yeah.
they been? Same thing with OJ. or Casey Anthony. There's never been one person that came forward and said, well, I think it was this person, because we know who the true killer is.
And you gotta remember one thing too. The world's a different world now than when it was when Scott Peterson was sentenced. With all these liberal judges letting everybody go, letting people who are doing violent crimes, who are illegal aliens, let them go. And
Right.
if ICE, and they let them go out the back door so ICE can't get them when they go out the front door of the courthouse. They're letting them go out the back door of the courthouse. So you know what? It's a different, I mean, I guess Scott Peterson, I guess I'd do the same thing if I was him. But the way these judges are now, these liberal judges, who knows? If you could put a shred of doubt in the judge's mind, these liberal judges, they got to remember, liberal judges, you can put a shred of doubt in their mind, and you can just give them one little teeny piece of reason to let him go, they will. That's how it is today in this world. That's
Well,
why
he already achieved a victory of some sort in 2020 because he was on death row and they reversed that.
Yep.
So he dodged that bullet.
Yep. Which he shouldn't have.
I just hope that they test this piece of duct tape and it's inconclusive.
And that's it.
And that is
done.
We never hear from this jerk again or
right.
Janie Cakes.
Yeah, he's looking rough in prison. You can see his face is tired. He's looking rough.
Yeah,
I wonder if is he in solitary confinement, or is he out with the general population?
I don't know, but I can't imagine he's in the general population and nothing's happened to the guy.
Yeah, I think someone would shake his ass.
Oh, in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
He's got to be
pregnant wife and baby.
Yeah, I can't imagine he's not segregated from the the population at large there, because he'd be a marked man for sure, and he's very identifiable. I mean, you know who he is. He still looks like Scott Peterson. Yeah, he's aged a bit in 22 years, but and he's still got that smug look on his face.
He does.
Yeah, that really, it was just I think Casey Anthony did a docuseries a couple of years ago, and it was the same thing. These people, I don't know if they just believe their own bullshit, or they're just they're so good at lying that nothing has changed. It's just more time has gone by, and they're spouting out the same as Rock would say, spewing the people's vomit. Same old stuff.
Yeah, right. I agree. It's pretty sad, but it's true.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, guys, go ahead, Dave.
I'm still surprised at the Pam Smart one that they haven't let her off after all these years.
I'm sure that's coming. But guys, I've come to the conclusion that we're going to be doing this podcast for the next 127 years because there is an endless supply of pieces of shit. You guys agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, our only issue is out of all the pieces of shit, which one do we pick next? I mean, it's just like,
right.
There's just so many.
Well,
the choices are
look at
endless.
Look at this piece of shit down south, Murdoch, or whatever they call him.
Oh, yeah, he might walk. He might walk and get a new trial.
It looks like he's going to walk out. He's going to walk free. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
That's another one. He could have been on the box of pieces of shit easily.
Yep.
Oh, I remember what the judge said to him when he sentenced him. I watched the sentencing. The judge said to him, "I do believe you killed your wife. I believe you have a conscience. I do believe you loved your wife and your son, but I do believe you killed them." That's exactly what the judge said to him.
Yeah.
And this guy is getting ready to walk free I don't know why. I haven't investigated it. I don't know why they're going to let him walk free.
Family name, big lawyers for generations.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
They think they're Teflon, but I got to be honest, guys, I thought that we were going to do like 3 or 4 of these episodes and we were going to all get tired of it and do something different on Monday night. But I got to tell you, I don't know about you guys. I really enjoy doing this with you guys and talking about these asshats. So now if you guys ever come down to Florida, We should do a live remote podcast. I have a new place now. My favorite place, Fitzgerald's Irish Tavern, right in downtown Newport Richey, where we could do some pints and fish and chips. And anyone from the chat or anyone else who listens to us is welcome. And the first beer is on the Playa. But and don't forget to watch tomorrow night, Dan and Benny in the Ring, 7:00. Our guest is former WWF Women's Tag Team Champion, a good friend of mine, Miss Desiree Peterson from Copenhagen.
We lost him?
Yeah, great lady.
We lose him?
What's that?
We lost you there for a minute.
Oh, no, Desiree Peterson is our guest tomorrow night on Dan and Benny in the Ring.
Okay, yeah, well, speaking of wrestling, we had the big IWF Killer Kowalski reunion Hall of Fame Awards last Saturday. It was great.
Oh, nice.
We did this, a couple days ago. Good time,
Yeah.
full house.
Yeah, it was great. Up at Conrad's in Foxborough.
Yep.
I am so glad that I can't even imagine what my life would be right now if, at 12 years old, I didn't get a TV set for Christmas and, mess around with the UHF dial and find Lucha Libre from Washington, D.C. and see, all these guys and convince my father to take me to a show at the Island Garden, West Hempstead, New York. And that was, 56 years ago. And
wow.
I love wrestling as much now for different reasons. I mean, I love the memories of, my youth. I mean, I'll when we get off the air, I'll probably flip on Monday Night Raw, have a couple of beers, but it's not the same. It's like I'm watching it now out of habit.
Yeah.
But I don't have any emotional attachment to it. I mean, I lived and died on Saturday night when I was a 12-year-old kid.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe you should invite him, Brittany, to the next year's reunion, Killer Kowalski's reunion.
I would love that. I would love that.
No kidding.
Yeah, just to, I love being around it. I love talking about it. I mean, it's just wrestling is a special thing, and it's so funny because when I was younger, I've told this before. We had our little group at school of wrestling fans, and everybody else who was not, they laughed at us. And then so if somebody was approaching us, we would change the subject just because we didn't want them to hear us talking about wrestling. But I mean, the one good thing now is, and if I give Vince McMahon credit for anything, I'll give him credit for bringing wrestling into the national spotlight, where you don't have to hide in the closet. You can be a wrestling fan, and be proud of it. I am damn proud of it, and just like I'm sure you guys are damn proud of your accomplishments in professional wrestling, and the fact that you're a part of this that very, very special business.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And you got to train with an absolute legend, one of the best heels that ever lived.
Oh yeah. Yep.
100%.
The Killer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I traveled many miles with the Killer in his Suburban.
When I think about how terrified, when I saw him on TV, I was scared shitless when I was 13. Him and George Steele were the guys that scared me the most. But Killer was he was so big, and he was a machine. He never stopped moving, and he had that claw, and I mean, just a ruthless heel. And it's so funny now, years later, hearing you guys talk about him. I mean, hearing so many people talk about him. Evan Ginsberg did a story on him for Pro Wrestling Stories, and just, I mean, the guy, by all accounts, was a gentleman,
absolutely,
and respected by 99.999% of the people in the wrestling industry. And when you can achieve that, you've done something.
Yep, great guy. Great guy. Always looked out for his students all the time.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, guys. So for the Boston Bad Girl and Dangerous Dave, this is the Playa telling everyone out there to stay safe and see you next crime. Good night, guys.
Bye, podcast land.
And what's keep on hoeing.